How did you all feel about the tour? Again, we really appreciate your punctuality. If you raise your hand or if you find me after, this is an umbrella we found on the bus, so a black and white striped umbrella. You can find me after. Okay, all right, we've got someone who's gonna claim the lost and found if no one else claims it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Karen. I have the privilege and honor of serving as the Vice President of Donor Services for the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida. And really today, I just wanted to thank you all for coming. I want to thank a few of our guests in the room, and I want to start by thanking our partners, the Jacksonville Jaguars, for hosting us in their incredible stadium, and the work that they have been doing over the last 30 years investing in community, including out east. The Community Foundation's signature strategy is to invest in neighborhoods. And we've been doing that for several years, including collaborating with partners out east. So we were one of the catalysts and early partners with Lift Jacks, partnering with the CDC and building capacity. But we can't do this alone. And one of the beautiful things that we have around Donors Forum is we get to see the other philanthropists who are collaborating and coordinating their giving. I want to give a shout out to a past WGA president who, through her leadership and advocacy, really mobilized the community to think about poverty alleviation and helped launch Lift Jacks, the predecessor to the work. So Ellen Wiss, thank you so much for your work. And even prior to that, one of the biggest investments that we've made in terms of launching private-public partnerships and having a healthy ecosystem was by bringing LISC, not to be confused with Lift Jacks, so LISC Jacks. And we have JF Bryan here, who was absolutely instrumental in helping us launch LISC in Jacksonville. And we know how important it is for community members to be outside and to build community, and a lot of that happens on playgrounds. So I want to thank Kim and Brian Klontz for their investments in playgrounds across the city, including one of them that you visited here out east. So thank you, Kim and Brian. So I'm going to quickly pass the mic to our partners at the Jags, Christina, to say, again, thank you so much for your work in helping to coordinate all of this. And then we'll watch a brief video and turn it over to you all for some questions.
Good morning. I am Christina Heath. I am the director of the Jaguars Foundation, and just wanted to take a quick second to thank all of you for being here and to welcome you into Everbank Stadium. And Devin, you can cue the video.
Thank you. Jacksonville's Historic Eastside, known to many as Out East, has officially been listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This designation is the federal government's official list of districts, sites, buildings, structures, and objects deemed worthy of preservation for their historical significance. Dating back to the end of the Civil War, the Eastside neighborhood is one of Jacksonville's last cohesive urban core communities and one of Florida's largest historically intact African-American neighborhoods. Let's take a look through its extensive history.
Originally platted in 1869, the East Side was formed in 1887 when 3 adjacent communities were annexed by the city of Jacksonville: East Jacksonville, Oakland, and Fairfield. Contributing to its development and historic significance are many industrial, educational, and religious institutions. In its beginnings, the neighborhood attracted many formerly enslaved African Americans because of its proximity to employment opportunities at sawmill, maritime, and industrial operations. Many of those were Gullah Geechee descendants, bringing with them many African cultural expressions that have influenced the development of the East Side through food, language, music, arts and crafts, as well as architecture, seen through the development of shotgun homes. As the neighborhood continued to grow and develop, we saw the rise of religious institutions, education, and artistic icons. First organized in 1865 in what would soon become the East Side, the Mother Midway AME Church was the first Black independent church that was established in Florida after the Civil War.
The Boylan Haven School became one of the first schools in the area for African American girls. At the Florida Baptist Academy, the Black National Anthem was born when James Weldon Johnson's poem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, was put to music for the first time by his brother and faculty member, John Rosamond Johnson. Also associated with the school was Eartha M.M. White, whose impact to better conditions for the underprivileged is still felt today. Praise author and Harlem Renaissance leader Zora Neale Hurston was once a student of that same school and lived out east. The East Side also has ties to historical figures like Joseph E. Lee, Jacksonville's first African-American lawyer. A.L. Lewis, founder of Florida's first black insurance company and many segregation-era initiatives for African Americans. Robert Bullet Bob Hayes, a sprinter turned football player and the only American athlete to win both an Olympic gold medal and a Super Bowl ring. And Asa Philip Randolph, a trailblazing civil rights activist and leader of the first successful African American labor union.
While both the East Side and Jacksonville were on the rise, one of the most significant and tragic events in the city's history took place, the Great Fire of 1901. While the fire destroyed nearly all of the buildings in downtown Jacksonville, the East Side remarkably escaped the destruction. In the decades that followed, the neighborhood's Florida Avenue became a center of segregation-era black commerce and was the place to see and be seen. As many of Jacksonville's African-American neighborhoods began to change due to the construction of bridges and highways, the East Side and Florida Avenue remained a safe haven for the city's many black residents and continued to thrive. In the late 1960s, desegregation and civil unrest began to take its toll.
Today, many community leaders are working to steward the East Side to the thriving neighborhood it was for nearly a century. This historic designation is an important step to support the work being done while upholding our shared history and values that make Out East a neighborhood worthy of preservation.
So we've done a lot of talking, and I don't know, Suzanne, if you feel like you've got anything else to add, or if I would open it up for observations, questions, comments, anything that stuck out to you, anything you want to learn more about, doubts you have. Love to hear all of it. Melanie.
David, will you tell the story about Deb's store and the decision to make it a market versus pantry?
Yeah, so this is, the question from Melanie was the decision to make Deb's store a market and not a pantry. And I think this is a really good example of, for me, the collaboration and the success that can happen when you have people from in the community working together with people from outside of the community. The original, when you, I think, generalize and think about what kind of food offering you might bring to a neighborhood like the Historic Eastside, I think the assumption would be off the bat that a food pantry would be the solution. That we see a lot of that, and it's not at all to say that food pantries aren't needed or important, because they are. However, when we want to think about the sustainability of the neighborhood and bringing in investments that will really shape the trajectory of it in a more positive way, we need to think bigger than that. And frankly, some of our initial conversations with some of our outside experts, they told us, I don't think that a market will work. But we talked to the community, and they said, listen, we had a grocery store there that operated for 90 years, and this is something that we want to see in our own neighborhood. So we respectfully would ask you to rethink that and think with us about how to make that happen. And so we have been, sorry, I feel like I'm on Hollywood here. So that push from the community, along with creative thinkers, and I think, Melanie, you were the first one that said, we're not going to do a pantry. And we're going to do a market, because that's what the community has asked for, and that's what we need to think creatively to do. Now, attracting, again, a 30,000 square foot Publix to the Historic Eastside at this point in time is not going to happen. the neighborhood would not support a market like that. And so that's where a partner comes in, like Goodwill Industries, wherever Rachel is, approaching the right partner who's willing to take that plunge with us, with the community, to say, we believe in this mission, we believe in meeting the needs of the community as articulated by the community, and we're willing to make that happen. And I know very well how hard Rachel and Dane and David and everybody else has worked at Goodwill to make this work, because it's not something that's pulled off the shelf where we know how to do a neighborhood market in the historic Eastside. But we're committed with a good partner, we're committed with the community. And this is one thing I always say too, the historic Eastside residents and families have a critical role in the success of this, because folks have to shop there, and we need to be making sure that people will. But I think
and small businesses,
right.
like the cookie, look, small businesses will have the opportunity to display their wares in the store as well.
Yeah. So that's a little bit how that came about. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Can you define the borders of the area that you're working on? I was looking at Google. And
Oh, yeah.
East sides really can just keep going.
Right. Yeah. So the borders of it are. I want to point to something. Of course, there's not a map. It's north of the expressway that we just by the fairgrounds there, and really about 2 miles north up into the Long Branch neighborhood. If you can look at Long Branch Elementary, and it's really to the east of Springfield and to the west of the Talleyrand Port area. So it's really just, it's a kind of a rectangle you can picture. I can send a visual through, but it's about a 2 square mile just directly north of here. Yes, sir.
What we didn't see on the tour today was what it was like 22 years ago when the list started there. It was a dangerous neighborhood. You didn't feel comfortable being there. A lot of what you saw today didn't exist. I mean, it looked like an impossible dream. Yep. We came in as list, sounded like a government organization, and we were there to help them rebuild their neighborhood. Their reference was La Villa and Riverside, Brooklyn, where they moved everybody out and didn't find any place for them to go, transformed the neighborhood into something other than residential. And so it took years to build the trust in the neighborhood to do what has been done. There's a lot of people, not just this.
Yeah.
We're grateful for that with LISC. Eastside is still the most intact African American community in the state of Florida because of that work, because of those contributions and starting those initiatives.
Yep. I would emphasize that we really see our work as our leg of the relay race in this. And especially if you talk to somebody, I think Travis had to step out, but his grandfather was the original head of the first CDC in the neighborhood, I think, years ago. And so we're in a neighborhood like the historic Eastside where families have been there for 100 years or more. It feels like we're doing our part during this leg of the race with partners to see what we can do to keep the work moving forward. Sir.
Tour was excellent. Thank you all for that. I'm a product of the East Side. So I'm a product of the East Side, and it brought back a lot of memories. And we have an excellent program at Matthew Gilbert called the Achievers for Life program. So one of our biggest challenges in that area, we're funded by United Way with the project. One of our biggest challenges, the parents with the housing, when you said affordable housing, where they were paying $600 a month in rent, and now it's $1,200 for families that are working class folks. So how are you all getting the schools involved? Because there's some gyms right across the street at, it was a 6th grade center when I grew up. Can't think it's a magnet program now.
R.L. Brown?
R.L. Brown, thank you. They're doing wonders in that school. I was surprised when I went in, so it's situated great for you all. Now, I grew up further out east, closer to Long Branch, and I was telling someone earlier, I went to J. Allen Axon, and they tell me you're revitalizing that. And that was school number 8, so that tells you how old that school was. But how are you all coordinating with the schools in the area?
So one of our board members is a staff member, a professor at UNF. UNF is a partner of ours, and they have a program actually in Matthew Gilbert School. We also have our WAS Ed program for middle schoolers in Matthew Gilbert, and we're working with, R.R. Brown is a talent magnet, so there's a very small percentage of local residents that attend that school, but we are working with those teachers as well to identify those needs for those students and those parents, because we still have a challenge with the parents learning. If the parents are, for whatever reason, are unable to learn or a little challenge in literacy, then that proposes a challenge for the students as well.
Yep, I'd add on to that only to say, this is also long-term work, and we think about this really generationally, and that's why we're so excited about the Early Learning Center also at John Love, which is a first of its kind. Travis mentioned this. It's the first investment that DCPS has made of that nature in the city. It is 120 seats for 3 and 4 year olds. The majority are from the historic Eastside, and that's getting a 3 and a 4 year old ready for kindergarten and beyond ready for kindergarten. So we know that we've got kids graduating from there last year who now are in kindergarten. We're going to start to see the results of that at the 3rd grade reading level in a couple of years. We're going to start to see the results of that in middle school, and it's really about starting early. And not to say that we neglect the elementary or middle school. We're focused there as well, but we think about that entire pipeline so that we're preparing those students from an early age. But that's a huge part of what we're doing. And then as I alluded to, for example, at Long Branch, we know literacy is an issue, so we're working with Read USA to focus on that. We know student attendance is an issue, so we're partnered with My Village Project, a local initiative to support student attendance there. So our role, I see very much in the schools. I believe in school leadership. I believe in the teachers. And I believe in the staff at those schools, and so our role, I see, is very much how do we help them do their job better. That's a couple thoughts on that. Sir?
I noticed quite a few infill houses as we were driving around. Are all those infills committed buyers, or are you beginning to see people building spec homes and that?
It's a combination. Some of them are committed buyers. I administer the first-time homebuyer program that goes through the city of Jacksonville. So we do have a list of committed buyers within a certain income limit. And then, of course, as we mentioned, the LISC Project Boots program is a program for higher income individuals. So it's a combination.
And I think what we'll see, and it's always a balance, because what we will, I believe, we're starting to be I think we are starting to be successful, but even more so when we start to see more spec houses built and to start to see more investment in the neighborhood because of the model that we're collectively setting about attracting people back to the neighborhood. Then of course becomes a conversation about how do we make sure that we're building homes that are affordable and accessible to people, and we're not starting to price people out. But again, that's where we're building our own homes, repairing existing homes, and making sure we're setting that precedent for affordability. And John?
David, what can be done to fix the appraisal so that people who have homes can take out a second mortgage to do repairs, or they can sell their home at market price, the same price that they'll sell to?
In the Appraisal Equity Initiative, also partnering with LISC, thank you much. The issue is education, and it's also getting more African Americans. About 97% of the appraisers are white. So it's about providing opportunity for more minorities to become appraisers and create that equity and that balance within that. And that's the biggest challenge with the appraisal equity, because it's really the individuals and the appraisers that's making these not assumptions, but doing these appraisers and just making the assumptions based on social economic factors or race that the house is worth less than what it actually is.
I agree entirely with that. And once you have gotten the values, once you've set the comps in the neighborhood where they start to be appraising out for more, then you can, the next appraisals will match those. So I again credit LISC a lot with getting in, working with those appraisers to making sure that the homes that are being built are appraising at the correct value, so that the next ones that come in are similarly done. Yeah, Val. Sure.
Hi, Valerie Jenkins. And what I'll add to that comment is LISC is also doing work around heirs property and untangling titles. So in many cases, in addition to the disparity that exists with the appraisals, there's also a lot of work that is currently being done as relates to being able to clear the titles so generations and individuals can have, in fact, access to loans and other opportunities to make improvements to the properties. So thank you, LISC, once again.
Thank you for that, Valerie. And we did not go too deeply into heirs property, but we are continuing the heirs property initiative. In our restore and repair program, one of the barriers was that they had to be the owner of that property. And so we ran into several of those issues. We have that partnership with LISC, that if they are not the owner of the property, if they're an heir, that we send them to Three Rivers Legal, and Three Rivers Legal will take them through the process of becoming the rightful owner, and then they can come back to us for that restore repair program. The Historic Eastside CDC is now, because we've submitted so many heirs property cases and we've done it so well, we are now the leading organization for receiving and transferring those heirs property cases.
Heirs property is an asset issue. If you have 8 or 10 heirs because nobody's had a will for generations, you can't leverage the property to educate kids or improving the property, etc. It's estimated that 60% of Durkeeville is heirs property. I mean, that's a huge.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed with heirs property cases.
You mentioned during the tour that you were working with the Emerald Trail. Can you share a bit more about how that's being?
So the Emerald Trail is 30-mile of trail that's going through 14 urban core neighborhoods. I think 11 of those neighborhoods are historic African American neighborhoods. They've done a really great job. Every month or so, every maybe 6 weeks, we have an event, a walk and talk to introduce the community to the Emerald Trail, provide opportunity for them to know and understand what it consists of and how it's going to impact the residents, but also an opportunity, and not just Eastside, but all the neighborhoods, to construct what they want to see in their part of the area. So the Groundwork Jacksonville is a great partner in that we're working with the residents because, as you are familiar with, any type of development that comes into a community is scary because it increases investor interest. So, and I tell everyone, we've been working, and when we asked the question about gentrification and our word with gentrification, we've been working on this for 10 years. We've been working for over a decade now to prepare residents for what we knew was coming. And it's still a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. But to answer your question, they are great partners, and the Emerald Trail, we just had a walk and talk this weekend along the portion of Hogan's Creek that comes to the east side to make those decisions about, again, what the community of Eastside want to see on their part of the trail.
No, I did see Brian. Can we sneak one more in? Can we sneak one more in? Yeah. Yeah, right, yeah.
In all seriousness, this is sort of big close. Like, what are the top 3 things we're all funders or prospective funders in the room that you're like, if I could have a wish list, these are the 3 priorities for the next 6 months or a year that you need some fun capital?
Yeah.
Great closing question. Good job.
Nice. Yeah. No, we don't want to answer that one. No,
Yeah, I'll answer that one, and I would say capacity, because most nonprofit small organizations like ours are underfunded. Capacity is major in us being able to continue to do this work. We get a lot of questions about the relationship between Eastside, the Historic Eastside CDC, and Lift Jacks. We're very programmatic, the CDC. We're boots on the ground, direct services to the community, as our great partnership with Lift Jacks is working to raise funds and raise capital for development and larger projects. So I would say capacity is one.
We're very, very focused on being out ahead to the extent we can of the market when it comes to real estate. So that's capital for acquisition specifically, and grants are great, and patient capital that can be loaned out and returned over time is also very, very helpful when we're trying to acquire land. And that's to build houses, and that can be commercial property as well. But we don't want to be sort of naive about the pressures that are coming into the neighborhood. We're doing our best to repair homes, make sure that we're educating residents, untangling heirs property, and all these kinds of things. And also we need to be, the collective we needs to be in control of the development in that neighborhood to a large extent. And so that's a really pressing issue for us. But I do want to also say the capacity, and especially, of course, for all organizations, and especially for the CDC and some of our local organizations is tremendously helpful, because they're doing the work every day in the neighborhood.
All right, thank you all. Can we give a round of applause to David and Suzanne? I, again, led with gratitude about your punctuality, and so I want to make sure we hold to that punctuality by ending at 11 o'clock as we had promised. I want to close with an announcement that our next Donors Forum is on May 1st. We will be back here in the West Club talking about the downtown development on the riverfront activation. So we will be hearing from Mosh, the USS Orlick, Riverfront Conservancy, I think I just... Riverfront Parks, thank you. And then there will be another surprise guest, because I won't remember who they are. So registration information will be coming out in the next few days, but I'm excited to continue the conversation in understanding how those attractions will also be an opportunity to engage and invest in and with the Historic Eastside. Thank you all for coming today.